Hey Yoga Mamas. This week I'm sharing a variation of Uttanasana, which is also known as standing forward bend. And it's one of those poses that's, I guess, really like iconically yoga. You're reaching forward or releasing forward to touch your toes. But I would say that touching your toes is not the goal. If not your toes, the ground. But here we want to focus on the hips, and that's because that's where the forward bend comes from. So Uttanasana means standing forward bend. And I'd like to say that bend is maybe not the best word to describe the action, that I would rather say hinge. Hinge your hips, which you've probably heard in yoga class if you go to yoga class or do yoga on videos, which is so common these days. So you're hinging, and as you hinge, your whole spine follows. So I'll demonstrate that action of hinging the hip before we're even in Uttanasana. I'll turn sideways. And even just showing from this kneeling position, I'll put my fingers on those bony projections on your hips. So it's just the front of your hips. And if you can even use your hands to help. And tilt the pelvis forward. And it looks like I'm sticking my butt out. So that's tilting. This is tucking. And you can think of like a dog tucking its tail between its legs. So tilting and tucking. And this is an action that you see in yoga a lot with cat-cow pose, which is, when you arch and round. And just notice as you arch, you're tilting. And then as you round, you're tucking your pelvis. So see how that tilting and tucking affects the whole spine, and that's what we want to try to do in Uttanasana. So I just want to say before you get into the pose with me, if you're going to do it along with me, it's always fine to bend your knees. I'm such a fan of bending my knees in yoga. In my early years as like a teenager and in my 20s when I did yoga, I was always trying to have the straight legs and go to my fullest expression of the pose and push myself to maximum flexibility, which I found out over the years is not always the best idea. So I'll get into that idea of not pushing all the way into another post. But here, let's stand up. Maybe take a moment to shake your legs out, get grounded, shake your arms out, release any little bits of tension that way. I'm going to turn so you can see what's happening here, but you can face the video if you're doing it with me. Otherwise, you can watch and let it be instructional and then do it later, which I hope you do anyway. So find yourself in Tadasana, which is just a basic standing pose. And instead of inhaling to reach up, I'm going to put my hands on my hips. I'll take a breath in and just lightly open my chest, looking up. As I exhale, I'm going to hinge at the hip. So I'm tilting my hips forward. My knees might bend a little now or later. They're bending a lot, I see. Notice as I hinge, my chest and belly stay open. I may be even arching a little too much, so I'll pull that in. Flat back is fine. And then as I release forward, the weight of my arms and my head and my whole torso just hang forward. As you stay here and breathe, it's nice to kind of rock back and forth, forward and back or side to side. And that gives you a sense of where you're placing your weight down to your feet. Now, if there's a ton of tightness in your hamstrings, you could bend the knees a lot. You can even rest your elbows on your thighs, and that's totally fine. It's just whatever suits your body right now. All right, so wherever you're at, just allow the head and the arms to relax. Now, sometimes I roll up out of this like that, but instead today, I'm going to bring the hands back to my hips, lengthen the spine, and kind of like open that hinge as I come up, pressing down through the feet and not quite tucking the pelvis, just bring it up. If I were to tuck, it would look like that. Okay. So that's one way to do Uttanasana. I shared a post last week, or maybe was that earlier this week, where I rolled down into Uttanasana. So see how that feels different, rolling up and rolling down. And that you feel more stretching in the back. If we hinge like we just did a little bit ago, you're not stretching the back, you're stretching the hamstrings.
And when you settle and stay there, the effort's in the legs. Your legs are your steady pillar, and then your arms and torso and head just kind of hang like the branches of a willow tree. So,
a few different ways to do Uttanasana. I'm asking you to focus on the hinging action right now. In the last post, we talked about that rounding down and rounding back up. So I encourage you to try both variations. They both offer different benefits, different feelings. They stretch different areas of your body. Your breath feels different in the two. But my main emphasis to you right now is that hinging the hip and then also feeling free to bend your knees as much as you can. So there's effort in the legs, and everything from the waist up is just allowed to kind of relax and hang forward with gravity, as you stated. Very basic pose. Later this month, I'm going to get into a restorative version of Uttanasana and also a little mini sequence that features Uttanasana. So give that a little try. I like to do that during the day just as like a little mini yoga break. So I hope, maybe you try that too. And let me know how it goes. Thanks for watching.